backdrop for the best life you can ever imagine. I'm an author and a coach and a business entrepreneur, and I have so much I want to share with you. So thank you for joining me today. I know everybody. And so, yay, thank you for joining me. I know everybody's busy, and I was out in the rain all day, which you can tell by my hair, rain hair. But I had a wonderful day shopping and I met with clients and delivered gifts. But the one thing that I was thinking about the whole time is this is supposed to be the happiest time of the year, but is it really? I mean, some people really experience a really tough time. It sometimes can be surrounded with so much difficulty and sorrow and experiences coming up and feelings of unease and memories that may not be so good. It's also a time of celebration where we can look at it as the reason that we celebrate is the beautiful experience of Christmas and Christ being born and all of this. And Cynthia, thank you for joining me. You made it home in time. Yay. Um, but Christmas is a joyful time, but it also is a time that really triggers a lot of emotions. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, because one of the many things that I've done in my life, and I say many because we all have like handfuls of experiences that we have to draw from. Well, one of them is that I am a certified grief recovery specialist with the Grief Recovery Institute in Los Angeles. And I don't practice that for a living, but I do take on special clients now and then who are struggling with loss. And it was born out of my own desire to help people because I experienced the loss of my child. And every year, what comes up for me at Christmas is the fact that I lost my son at Christmas. It was December 19th, many years ago. But I remember thinking at that time, will I ever experience joy on Christmas again? And I didn't know the answer to that. And it took me many years to figure this out. And I know there are others of you on this broadcast that may have experienced some sort of loss around Christmas, or the loss comes up at Christmas. And so I want to share with you a few things that you can do to really make this time of year special and to honor those that we've lost, but also to honor the fact that you get to experience joy. You have permission to experience joy. And that's what I needed. I needed permission that it was okay to feel joy around Christmas, even though my son had died at Christmas. And so people feel either extraordinarily happy at Christmas, or many of them feel extraordinarily melancholy. And that's almost embarrassing because it's something that you feel a little uncomfortable admitting. And I know for me in the workplace that if people talk about, oh, it's great, Merry Christmas, have a wonderful Christmas, and on December 19th, life goes on, the anniversary of my son's loss, life goes on, and somehow I have to say, Merry Christmas to you. And it doesn't always feel quite right. But at the time, I don't always have the energy to bring it up, nor do I feel like I want to ruin their enthusiasm for this time of year. So here's what I want to talk to you about. This year, we all experienced a loss that was pretty tragic. It had many things attached to it, and that was the experience with Paris. And we experienced a collective loss. Julie, thank you for joining me. Oh, that's a pretty green color across your bar today. Julie, I'm talking about loss and how Christmas is a time of year that most people are experiencing tremendous joy, and especially through a child's eyes. Oh, there's nothing better than having a child at home and being able to experience that Christmas. But also it's a time that can trigger great sadness. And I know, Julie, in your work, that you have that experience with other people and maybe with yourself as well, that Christmas can bring up all kinds of feelings. And so I'm getting back to experiencing the collective loss that we all felt with Paris, and how it was worldwide sorrow. Thank you for the hearts. It was worldwide sorrow. And that sorrow brought about a feeling of uneasiness, fear, loss of trust. There were so many things attached to it because it was just such a shock. And it was especially shocking for me because I had just been to Paris in September. So for me, that loss was extraordinarily profound because I had just walked those streets and walked past those buildings. And I thought to myself, those very people that I saw on the streets that were walking must have been clothed in sorrow, because maybe it was their daughter or their son or their cousin or their mother that was wounded in that attack or killed in that attack. And so this Christmas, I think we're all still feeling that collective sorrow for the people in Paris. And I want to acknowledge that, because that kind of loss gives us a lot to think about with the lack of trust that we have in things going okay in our world. And loss of trust is a part of grief. And do you know that there are over 40 kinds of grief? And when I went through my certification program with the Grief Recovery Institute, and this is the book that we use, the Grief Recovery Handbook that we use with our clients, and there are over 40 kinds of loss. And I think it's going to surprise you when I name some of these kinds of loss, because people don't think of it as loss. Besides the obvious, death of a mother, father, child, cousin, sister, brother, loss of a pet is huge. And I know if you have pets that you've likely experienced it in your lifetime, it's huge. Moving is another loss, and people don't expect that. And especially what I learned is if you move before the age of 15, that you go through a grief period, and it can trigger a lot of emotions around moving as an adult. And I moved 12 times before the age of 12 because my father was in the military. And I think it's resonating with you because I'm seeing purple and green hearts. I moved 12 times before the age of 12. And each time I grieved the loss of my friends because we didn't have internet, we didn't have cell phones. The only way we had to keep in touch with each other was phone, but that was very expensive because each phone call was a long distance call, and postcards and letters didn't quite make it either. And so what I found is typically when I moved each of those 12 times, that was the last time I saw those friends. Finally, when I moved to Monterey, which was the last time I moved as a child, I met a friend of mine who's been my lifelong friend. I met my friend Paula at the age of 12. And do you know that we hang on tight to our friendship? I treat it like gold. She is a very, very important part of my life and has continued to be. And because I learned the value of friendship in having moved so many times, I never take it for granted. And so Christmas is a time to acknowledge those friendships. And even though you may be feeling sorrow in other areas, acknowledge the friendships that you can call up and say, I'm so glad you're in my life. So another type of grief is also, along with moving, is school, changing schools. Another one is marriage. Believe it or not, and this comes right from the Grief Recovery Institute, marriage sometimes has grief attached to it because suddenly you're no longer single. It's a life that you're putting behind you. Now you're attached to something greater, a greater purpose, and that's a union that you have vowed to honor. And sometimes people go through a little bit of a depression after they get married. So don't be surprised if you're getting married that happens. And that's right out of the Grief Recovery Institute. So I think it also has to do with so much effort going into planning marriages and weddings and everything that people forget that, boy, there's a letdown after you're done. And I know that can happen because I had my own wedding 4 years ago and my daughter's wedding this year. And I remember this feeling of being let down after both of those times because I had worked so hard to plan the perfect wedding. And so, anyway, be aware of that. Another one is graduation. And my son just graduated from Long Beach, and so proud of him. He's my last child to graduate from college. And he said, now what? Now what? And there's a little bit of a grieving process and a feeling of upset. Like, now what do? I've been a student and studying all these years, and Mom, you've supported me all these years. And I'm scared I'm not going to get a job, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And, you know, those kinds of things happen with children who graduate. So be aware of that kind of loss as well. Another one is health challenges. People grieve after they've had surgery or had diagnosis they didn't expect. Expect that grief is attached to that. And it's an important thing to recognize that with these types of grief, that you take active recovery measures in it. And I will be speaking with you about that in Periscope over the weeks, months, however long I continue to do this, which I hope it's for a really long time because I do love doing this. And I always say grief doesn't necessarily happen to you. It takes active recovery, not passive. Grief is not passive. It has to be active to recover. That's a better way to say it. Another one is when you've been looking forward to a holiday for so long, and you've been planning this holiday, and suddenly you come back and it's over. Oh, Admire Red Rose is on. Thank you for joining me. I watched one of your Periscopes. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful Periscope. Thank you for joining me. I'm talking about, for the benefit of you that are just joining me, I'm talking about Christmas is the happiest time of the year, right? Well, not necessarily. Some people experience conflicted emotions around Christmas, and I want to talk to you, and I've been talking to you, about the 40 kinds of grief that you can experience, and sometimes it comes to a head during Christmas. And that's a lot of, I love that painting, love it. No, that's okay. You know what? That really makes me happy. I love the colors in it. I love looking out to the ocean because I grew up on the ocean in Monterey, California. And so I love that painting too. Thank you. So anyway, the collective grief that we all felt about Paris this year. So the other type of grief that I experienced was empty nest. But actually, I have to admit, after my fourth child went off to college, I actually felt, wow, for the first time, and I wasn't married yet, so I was alone in my home. For the first time, I'm experiencing freedom. And I get to watch who my child becomes as an adult. And it felt so good to sleep in when I wanted to. It felt so good if I felt like eating, great. If I didn't feel like fixing dinner, great. And I see purple hearts there, so maybe somebody else felt like that too. But empty nest is a very real feeling, and I have the feeling that I could have actually felt that before too. Yes, it's a wonderful feeling. So it doesn't mean that we have to feel merry and bright every single part of Christmas. It means that we can have those moments of sorrow, and you don't have to apologize for it. So, number one, if you're feeling conflicted this Christmas, start asking yourself, what has changed in your life? And I named some of the over 40 different kinds of loss that you may have had. Maybe you moved from a house, maybe you had a job change, maybe you had a marriage, all of those things can contribute. Some forms of grief will surprise you, and they won't rise up until suddenly you're maybe you've moved to a new house and you're decorating for Christmas and you're feeling sort of melancholy that you miss that old house where you once lived. I know that's the way I felt when I moved from Westlake Village. I was so happy to move to Murrieta, but you know what? Christmas came and I missed putting my tree up in Westlake Village and decorating my home, and I did have those conflicted feelings. Beautiful periwinkle hearts tonight. Thank you. So number one, what's changed in your life? Ask yourself that. Number two, healing means exploring about what happened. And so if you're in Marietta, Georgia, no, Murrieta, California. It's Murrieta. It's about an hour south of Los Angeles and an hour north of San Diego. So I get the beautiful Southern California without too much of the traffic. Yeah. So number two, what happened? And healing means exploring what happened in your life, because the only way that you can experience healing is by exploring it. And Julie is back in the house. So here's one way of exploring it, that you writers or journalists or painters or creatives, I want you to think about this. There's more than one way to explore your loss and your feelings around it. And one of the most important things you can do is write about it. And remember yesterday I told you that Sean Acor said that it's proven that by writing for 2 minutes a day for a minimum of 21 days, 2 minutes, he said, and that's it. 2 minutes a day for 21 days, that they measured people's brain waves 6 months later, and there was measurable improvement in their happiness. So think of how, if you write more than 2 minutes a day, or if you write longer than 21 days, how that 2 minutes can be life-changing for you. And it's an opportunity to explore feelings around your loss and your conflicted feelings. And so not only can you share it in writing, but share it in stories. Talk about it with your best friends. You can also paint about it. You know, the other day, I got an adult coloring book, and they have them on Amazon, and they are so much fun. And I got one for my daughter for Christmas. Ooh, don't tell her. I hope she's not watching. I got one for her for Christmas, and it's one with all kinds of cats because she's a crazy cat lady like me. And so I was coloring in this coloring book, and it was such a soothing time. I didn't put on music. I didn't have the television on. I sat there at the kitchen table with my pencil set, and I just colored and colored and colored. And I explored so many thoughts through that process. So I want to encourage you to maybe give yourself a little present. And you know what? I saw the adult coloring books not only on Amazon, but I saw them today at Bed Bath & Beyond. So you might try that. It's really fun. And then you have these beautiful little masterpieces that you can put on your bulletin board in your office. So coloring just isn't for kids anymore, you know. And so okay, after you've explored it, as a result, number three is, what could be different now? So Cynthia says, and dig out the kid ones. Mastery is helpful too. You're so right. The kid ones are fun too, with crayons. And you know, I love the smell of crayons. And my daughter's car, the Volkswagen that she used to smell like crayons. I don't know why. We could never figure it out, like if the previous owner left crayons in there or not. But the smell of crayons always reminds me of my daughter. So it's important, step three, that you have a strategy for your grief. Because here's what I want to tell you. December 19th, as I shared in the beginning of this broadcast, December 19th was yet another anniversary of the loss of my child. And December 19th, I had to work, and I had to do a lot of other things, but I created a strategy. Fascinates me, this return to coloring. I never stopped. You're one of the lucky ones, Cynthia. See, you were ahead of your time. I realized several days before that day came up is that I would just strategize for it. I wasn't planning on being sad. I wasn't planning on staying in bed because I had to work. So what I did have to do is I had to create a strategy around it. So what I decided is that I was going to spend the morning writing an open letter on Facebook to parents who have lost a child. And my God, it was long. It was like forever on Facebook. But do you know, I think, oh my gosh, the last time I counted, it was shared over 35 times. And it kept getting shared and shared to other moms who have lost a child. Thank you. Beautiful purple hearts. Thank you. That letter got shared and shared. Oh, I'm glad you read it, Cynthia. And for those of you that maybe know someone that could benefit from reading it, go to my Facebook page. I have it not only on my author page, but I have it on my personal page too. And I'm straight across the board on Twitter, Facebook, my author page on Facebook. All of it is Sandy Peckinpah. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, or at least write that down, because I can be found there. And that open letter to parents was so meaningful to me that I worked out a lot of my feelings that morning in writing that letter, and it just flowed. And it wasn't grammatically perfect. It just flowed. And that was my strategy. I planned for my grief time that morning. And so at 12 o'clock, when I was ready to meet my clients, I felt like I had done something important with my grief. I had given it to a tool to other parents, and hopefully hope to other parents that you will survive this tragic, tragic loss. And as I said, it's been shared so many times, and I'm so grateful that it has, because I think it's making a difference in people's lives. In fact, I know, because I've gotten beautiful private messages from people, and that means the world to me. So step 4 is acknowledge that it's hard to let go of the connection to the way things were. Just acknowledge it. I long sometimes for my life in Westlake Village and in the entertainment business, and when my children were small, and all of those things. But we're creating new strategies for the new life. And in the years to come, they can be the best ever. They can be the best ever if you strategize. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about taking control and strategizing. And, longing doesn't mean that you don't have a great life now. Just acknowledge that longing is a way of looking at beautiful memories. And, if you want a beautiful movie about that, watch It's a Wonderful Life. I love that movie. I love that holiday movie. I watch it every year. In fact, I did a blog about it, so I'm going to share that blog. Maybe I'll share that blog at Christmas. Maybe that's what I'll talk about on Periscope. So, good. So, and I long for when the children were small and to see their magical eyes on Christmas morning. I long for all of that. But guess what? I get to see them as adults, and they're the adults that I raised, and I get to see how wonderful they are. And I'm so glad that I have that. And number 5, when someone dies, you have to ask yourself, or if you have a tough time during Christmas season or during the year of that Christmas season, what inner adjustments do I need to make? What inner adjustments do I need to make? You do have control over your reaction, as much as you might not think so. You do have control. You can feel it, and then you can decide to act differently. And that's what I've tried to do. And it doesn't always work. There's no 100% here. No 100%. But feel it, acknowledge it, and then decide to act differently. Because your mind is a powerful tool, and you can make that decision, and you can make that change. When I had to meet my clients at 12 o'clock on the anniversary of his death, I was in the parking lot, and I thought, how am I feeling about this? I want to go in with my A game. My clients deserve the best. I want them to have a happy experience. How was I going to take my A game on this day? Well, I made a decision. I acknowledged it, and I decided to act differently. And I said a little prayer in the car, and I said, Garrett, I'd like you on my shoulder. walk in that door with me and meet my clients. You'd be proud of your mom, Garrett. You'd be proud of how she's survived this loss. And I felt every minute, goosebumps. I felt every minute with him. So that's what I did. I strategized. I asked him to come with me. So Christmas is a time to create new traditions. And this is going to be fun. I want to share this one more thing with you, and then I'll let you go. So what avenues do you have to create new traditions? When my girlfriend, Melissa, was struggling with a difficult time in her life, she asked if she could come and spend Christmas with me. And I was so glad that she turned to me, because we have a relationship that can't be touched by anything but love. And she said, for those of you who don't know, I love sharing this because I'm so proud of her. And her name is Melissa Gilbert, and she was the actress who played Laura Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie. And Melissa has been my friend for over 25 years, and we're passionately best friends. And I love her so much. And we've been through ups and downs, and you better believe ups and downs, because we've been through a lot. And Melissa always says the good times were the pearls on the necklace, and the rough times were the knots. But the knots also held it all together. So we continue as friends and call each other the moment something happens, whether it's joy or sorrow, we're there. And so she called me this one Christmas several years ago, and she said, Sandy, I can't do Christmas by myself. Can I come to your house? Can I bring Michael Garrett to your house? And yes, she named her son Michael, the middle name Garrett, after my son. Michael for Michael Landon, and Garrett for my son Garrett. And so she said, can I bring Michael Garrett with me, and can I bring my dogs, because I have nowhere to go for Christmas? I said, of course. And we decided to do something very different. You know, Melissa makes the best fried chicken in the world, and it's in her cookbook. And if you don't have it in her cookbook, order it for yourself for Christmas. It's called Prairie Cooking, I think. And it's by Melissa Gilbert. And I even have some recipes in there, because she put some of mine in there too. In fact, she put my cowboy cookie recipe in there, which were Garrett's favorite cookies. And then they became Michael Garrett's favorite cookies. And so she came with dogs and Michael Garrett and presents. And we had the best time. And you know what? This is what the point I want to get to. What avenues can you create new traditions or break it up? Because sometimes it needs a pattern interrupt. And so what we did for Christmas dinner, we made fried chicken and waffles. Yeah, My Prairie Cookbook. Thank you for doing that. My Prairie Cookbook, and it's on Amazon. I know you can get it. If you do 2-day, you might even be able to get it for Christmas. So I'm so proud of her for doing that. And I think she has my grandma's green beans in there too. And we always make that for New Year's. So we made fried chicken and waffles, and it was one of the best Christmas dinners ever. We had so much fun. The kids were thrilled. And my husband was there too. And he had never had Melissa's fried chicken before, so it was like a new experience for him. He could not believe it. We had the best time. And you know what? That Christmas goes down as one of the best Christmases of my life. And for Melissa too, even though it was a tough year for her, it goes down as one of the best Christmases. So again, I want to tell you that what I shared last night, transition happens when one door closes and another opens. And guess what? You may be in chaos now. You may be feeling melancholy, but you may be at the door of transition. So open it. Take the next step. You can do it. I promise. So that's what I've got for you tonight. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to spend this time with you. Cynthia, best Christmas dinner for me was grilled cheese at a truck stop with my bestie. Unexpected is best. Yes. Isn't that fun? That's a great story, Cynthia. So I've got my writers program coming up, and let me tell you, singer, not the song. Oh, you're back. Thank you for joining me. I'm so glad. Okay, now wait a minute. I think I wrote your name down because your name is, okay, don't tell me. Carolyn. I think Carolyn's back. I wrote it down. So thank you. I'm wrapping up this broadcast, but I hope that you'll join me in replay. And because I had a lot of information that I'd love for you to listen to. And thank you for the hearts. God bless you for those hearts. I've got, over 50,000, I think. Yay. So glad. And my writers program starts January 11th. Get ready, because I am creating worksheets for you and ideas for you that I am so excited to share. And we'll get you started writing. You know, everybody that I meet not everybody, but many people say, oh, you're an author. You know what? I've always wanted to write my story. Well, guess what? You can. Not only that, your story doesn't have to be a book. Your story doesn't have to be a blog. Your story can be for your benefit. It's one of the tools in therapy that great therapists use to help you heal. Knowing your story gives you the clues and the keys to the next part of your life. So I have some tools and strategies for you. January 11th, if you want to join me, and I've had several people send me Twitter messages, so I'll put you on the list and you'll be getting an email. I hope you open it. I know emails are tough, but you can message me at Sandy Peckinpah on Twitter if you want to be included with your email address. And you'll go through a process where you will I'll enter your email, and then it'll probably send you a message that said, confirm that you want to receive this email, because email laws make you do that, spam laws. So we have to follow the rules. But anyway, thank you for joining me. My sons are arriving tomorrow. I am so excited, but you know what? I'm going to try and plan something anyway for you, because I don't like to miss broadcasting. I love connecting with all of you. Merry Christmas, and I hope that you got a lot out of this. Thank you for the beautiful hearts. You're wonderful, and God bless. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.